Yokoso peeps, it's Oz, and today I'm going to be talking about something called the Gaijin Effect. So awesome. This video is brought to you by all my Patreon supporters. Go Team Awesome! So first of all, if you don't know what a Gaijin is a Japanese word for foreigner, anyone who's not Japanese. Gai means outside and jin means person in Japanese characters. So outside person. I kind of like the term Gaijin because unlike some countries, like for example North America, where you're Asian or you're black or you're Latino or you're white or European or whatever, they just lump everybody who's not Japanese into Gaijin. So it's kind of like almost like an equality. And technically Gaijin is not like a positive word, it should be Gaikokujin, which means Gai, outside, Koku, country, Jin. So outside country person, which sounds a little bit more acceptable. Gaijin is more like the slang, kind of like the derogatory version, but it's kind of like the N-word where if you are one, you can call yourself that, but if like a Japanese person was to say it to you, it might sound a little rude. But I kind of like the whole concept of Japanese people not discriminating against one specific race. They just think everybody who's not Japanese is different. I don't know, maybe that's its own different problem, but for now, that's what Gaijin means. And before I explain the Gaijin effect, one thing that you should know is to notice the Gaijin effect, usually you have to speak Japanese. I speak Japanese okay, I'm not gonna say I'm fluent, I get by. I've taken the JLPT, I've passed the N3, I haven't taken the N2, I probably wouldn't pass that. So I would say I'm intermediate Japanese. So I want to talk to you what Gaijin effect is, and I also want to tell you some of the reactions I've had. When a Gaijin person is present in front of Japanese people, somehow they become kind of like the center of attention. And I don't mean like a celebrity, like when Brad Pitt walks in, a whole crowd forms. I don't mean like that, but I mean like for some reason, somehow, maybe even subconsciously, all the people around who are Japanese somehow switch topics to something about foreigners. So the thing about the Gaijin effect is if you're a tourist or you don't speak Japanese, you most likely won't pick up on it because it's not like they go out of their way, they look at you, they point and say, oh my god, look at that foreigner. It's not like that. It's like within their group of people that they're with, their friends or family or whatever, they just somehow bring up either you or something about your country or something about just Gaijin life. Here are some examples that are actually true examples that happened to me. "最近は英会話始まると思ってる。どう思う?ねえ、韓国欲が多いね。オリンピックスキルだからかな?" But it's so funny because there's so many times, it happens to me almost every day. Even if I'm just walking down the street, I've had like people who are like behind me. They're like university students or sometimes they're like old senior citizens or whatever. I can hear them talking, they're talking about weather or something, and suddenly they just, as soon as they notice that I'm there, they suddenly switch to something about English or foreigners or the Olympics or something to do with North America or Europe, or they just change their topic to like outside Japan topics. And a lot of times it's not even directly at me, it's not like, oh look at that guy, I wonder what country he's from. It's more like I'm walking, they see my face, then they continue walking and they're like, oh by the way, how's your like English lessons going? Like it's like regular small chat, but it's always focused on English or language or foreigners or something about traveling to a specific country. Maybe it's just coincidence that they saw me and started talking about that, but it's happened so many times where I've been at restaurants and stuff with my friends or my girlfriend or whatever, and it's so funny because we overhear something and every single time it's like somebody's talking about English. So when I first came to Japan and I didn't speak Japanese, I could pick up a little bit, I could hear the word eigo or gaikokujin or something like that. So I figured Japanese people really like foreigners, or they really like speaking English, I guess. And then so I was asking my Japanese friends, like, do Japanese people really always talk about speaking English and stuff? Because every time I hear conversations, I always hear them talking about eikaiwa or eigo. And then Japanese people are like, no, we never ever talk about that really. I mean, unless you're like part of an eikaiwa class or something. And then I pointed out to them like, oh yeah. And they realized, oh my god, that's so funny. Every time you're around, the people around you somehow change their conversation and start talking about English. That's why I call it the Gaijin Effect. I don't think they do it on purpose. It's kind of just naturally, subconsciously happens to them. I don't think it's only me that it happens to it too, because I was talking to some of my coworkers and they said the exact same thing. They said when they're with their wives or whatever, their Japanese wives, and they're going out, wherever they go, their wife tells them, oh, they were just talking about foreigners or just talking about English or whatever, when they happen to be close to them. So I think it's like a Japan-wide thing. But if you have this experience, or if you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested to know if there's other foreigners in Japan who speak Japanese or who can understand Japanese who have the similar situation. The first reaction to me all the time, because the way I look, I don't look like I'm from Canada. I'm not a hockey player, I'm not tall, I don't wear flannel, I'm not a lumberjack, I'm not white, I have all my teeth. So I don't look like a typical Canadian. I know everything I said is really stereotypical, but that's how Japanese people who've never been to Canada are thinking. In their mind, all they see is what they saw on the media, on the TV, or if they haven't left and haven't been to Canada, for them the image is cold country, lots of snow, lumberjacks, ice hockey players, that's about it. When people see me, they either say hola or namaste, and then finally they say hello. And a lot of the times when I'm in the elevator, or I'm like, just walking, or I'm waiting at a lobby or something, someone just says, oh, do you work at the curry shop? Which would be really super racist if you were like in America or Canada, because you're like, what do you mean? Just because I'm brown, I'm like Indian restaurant? But the funny thing is, it's kind of true, because in Japan, there's a lot of brown people, if that's the word for it, like Indian people, and a lot of them are in IT, but a lot of them are in Indian restaurants. So there's not a lot of brown Indian English teachers or other kind of jobs. They're mostly either working at Indian restaurants or they're working in IT. So they usually have like a 50-50 chance of getting it right. But because I'm a Canadian born, they don't realize that until you talk to me. And even after they talk to me, because if they've never been to Canada, they don't know that I don't have an Indian accent. So for them, what they see is what they get. So they just assume that I'm from India or Brazil or wherever brown skinned people are from. But the funniest thing, or the weirdest thing, I would say, is one time I was in my building where I've lived for 3 years. There was a guy who rode the elevator with me, an old man, but a new Indian restaurant opened last year, and there's 2 cooks from the Indian restaurant who work in that restaurant, and they ended up moving into this apartment building where I live. So the funny thing was, even though we've talked for 3 years, like greetings, how's it going kind of thing, when I was in the elevator last month, he was like, oh, like, it must be busy, your shop must be busy. And I was like, right? And he's like, yeah, because lunchtime you guys have the all-you-can-eat buffet, so it must be like so expensive. And then so he mistook me for one of the new Indian guys who moved in, who are one of the cooks at the Indian restaurant. So I guess to him, all brown people look the same. So I guess I should have been offended there, but I just thought it was funny. Because like, no, that's not me. I'm the guy with the dog, remember? And he's like, oh yeah, sorry about that, oh yeah. I was like, okay, whatever. Sometimes I overhear conversations, sometimes good, sometimes bad, that are actually directed at me, not just at the whole Gaijin kind of like a topic, or like eikaiwa or English. So I want to talk about the most funny or interesting or positive situation that I had in terms of overhearing conversation about me in Japanese, and one bad one. I guess you could call it racist, or I would call it just stupid. So a negative situation. So let's start with the positive one. So I was on a train from Chiba to Kimitsu, and it's a long train ride, I would say 45 minutes, and it's on a train line that's not very busy, so it's very empty, especially I go in the afternoon when I go to my school there. And then these 2 girls were sitting kind of in the corner Maybe they're high school, maybe they're university girls, I don't know. They were sitting in the corner and they were like giggling and laughing and talking about stuff, so I was just had my headphones on, I was ignoring them, whatever. I noticed that they kept looking over at me slowly. So then they'd look at me, and when I look at them, they look down or they giggle or whatever. So I tried to ignore them, but then they moved seats, and they moved from that corner seat to pretty much across from me, but on the other side of the train, opposite side. So they're sitting across from me and I had my headphones on, but so I just put my volume really low, but I still kept my headphones on just to see what was going on. And they were talking pretty loud because they knew I had headphones on. So they were basically saying like, I think that's him, oh my god, yeah, I think it's him, talk to him. So I was like, okay, now I know they're talking about me, but I didn't know what they thought about me. So they're like, yeah, oh my god, maybe we can get a picture with him, blah blah. So I was thinking, do they know I'm a YouTuber? But like, my YouTube videos are not that popular, especially in Japan. Like, a lot of my videos that did well overseas, because I don't put subtitles for Japanese people, and I don't really talk about stuff that Japanese people are interested in because they already live in Japan, so they don't really need to see Japan. But I still have a few fans from Japan. But I thought maybe like about 5 years ago, I used to be in videos with this really famous Japanese YouTuber. Well, he's half Japanese. His name is PDR, Duncan. And his channel's huge and he has a lot of fans, especially young fans. So I thought, maybe they saw me on his video. So that's why they recognized me and they're fangirls of him. And then one of the girls just like got up, and then she came 2 steps forward, but then she turned around and pulled the other girl up. So now they're both standing and they're like in the middle of the train, and I'm pretending not to pay attention to them. I'm just looking at my smartphone or whatever, and they're like, excuse me, and then I pretended to like take off my headphones even though I had nothing playing on them, and I was like, oh, hello, and I was expecting to say, are you on YouTube, are you a YouTuber? And I was gonna say, yeah, how's it going, blah blah blah. I was ready for that, but then they're like, we really like your movie, and I was like, okay, and they're like, it was so good, and you are a really good actor, and I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. And then they're like, the other girl had a photo, and she's like, showed me the photo, and it was a picture of Oompa Loompa. So for those of you who don't know, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the new version with Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, that has a little brown guy, I think his name is Deep Roy. So he's like the actor, and so like a lot of people from YouTube always comment that I look like the character from Charlie and Chocolate Factory. So these girls actually saw the picture of the character, and then they just assumed that I'm that guy, and so they were so excited. So I didn't want to burst their bubble to say that I'm not him. So they're like, can we get a picture with you? I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so I took a selfie with them. They were really funny, and I kind of lied to them, but I thought it was kind of funny. I wanted them to have like a good experience. So that was a good time where I could catch their Japanese, where I knew they were talking about me, but it was directly towards me and it was positive. Now let's talk about the negative one. So I was in Canada, I was at the airport, I was in the customs heading to Japan. So I was in a lineup and there was a whole bunch of people, but because the flight was from going to Japan, it was a lot of, I guess, Japanese people heading back to Japan. So I was in that lineup and there was a couple behind me, a young couple, maybe 20s, maybe early 30s, I don't know. But like a man and a woman, a Japanese couple. And they were speaking Japanese, so I knew they were Japanese. And then I had that customs card where you have to fill out. And I wasn't gonna like leave the line, because I didn't want to go to the counter to get a pen and then start at the back of the line where there's like 50 people waiting. So I was like, okay, if I can fill this card out while I'm in line, I can just go straight to the counter and do it and go in and I can go to my flight. So I was looking for a pen, I was like, damn it, I already checked my pen in my suitcase or whatever. So I was like, okay, maybe somebody can lend me a pen. So I turned around to the girl next to me, I'm like, hello, and excuse me, I'm like, can I borrow a pen? And she was like, oh sure. And then she kind of regretted saying that. I could tell in her eyes, she's like, fuck, I said yes. And then she pretended to open her bag and she did this and then she closed it. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a pen, sorry. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's okay, thank you. I turned around and then from behind me, she was telling her boyfriend, oh, I have a pen, but I don't want to lend it to him. And then he's like, oh, why? This is in Japanese, by the way. She's like, oh, because foreigners, when they borrow pens, they never return them. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was thinking in my head, what? First of all, I was shocked that they were talking about me and about such a stupid thing, and they were speaking Japanese, so I was kind of like laughing that I knew what they were saying, but I was like, what? That's not even racist, that's just really stupid, right? What do you mean foreigners never return pens? Did she have a really bad experience, like where she was in North America or Toronto and she lent a pen and the guy like ran away with it or something and in front of her face and said, fuck you, I have your pen, bitch? Like, why? Why was she so offended by lending a pen? And that was not the only problem. It's not like I was gonna run away with the pen. I was in a lineup. There's people ahead of me and she's behind me. There's nowhere for me to go. I had the thing in my hand. I was gonna write right there and then pass the pen right back to her. So it's not like I would have taken the pen either. Like, I understand if I was like far away and I'm like, I'll be right back, and then like never come back, maybe. But I was in the lineup waiting. So then I was like so confused, but I was listening, talking to her. She's like, yeah, like it's so famous, foreigners they're not reliable, they never return anything on time, and they're always like late to do anything. So she said ikagen, that means kind of like lazy or not trustworthy, I guess. So she's saying all that stuff, and I was like, so fucked up. I was like, I don't know what to do. I wanted to turn around and yell at her in Japanese. I was like, what are you, fucking idiot? Like, what do you mean? I'm standing right here. I just want to borrow it. I want to return it. But I didn't want to cause a scene, and it's at the airport and I'm brown, so if she reacts badly, then security guard's gonna like pull me and take me out of the line and get mad at me, and I'll have to go through some other way, and who knows what'll happen to me. So the people in front of me were also a Japanese family. I think it was like a mother, father, and like 2 kids or something. So I asked them, can I please borrow a pen? Because the mother was holding the thing, and she's like, okay. And I said, I'll return it in 1 minute. And then I quickly wrote. So what I did was I filled out the form that time. I turned around, and in Japanese, I said, sumimasen, saki ni dozo, in Japanese. And they're like, oh, arigato, arigato. I said, このペンは前の家族から借りたから早く帰って返さなきゃから先にどうぞ行っていいよ. And then also when I was done with the pen, I went right between the girlfriend and the boyfriend. すいません、すいません。ペンありがとうございます. And then I waited. And I could tell that they were like, the girl was probably thinking, fuck, he speaks Japanese and he returned the pen. Damn it. Right? And I'm sure the boyfriend was thinking, wow, my girlfriend's a fucking racist whore. And so that's how I got my revenge. I didn't have to yell at them. I made the Japanese family in front of me happy because I was such a polite foreigner for giving them the pen back. I quashed the notion that foreigners don't return pens in front of her face and in front of her boyfriend's face. So I felt like, it sounds petty, but I felt like I finally won. I was like, yeah, that's right, bitch, take it. That was my revenge on the negative situation of me catching people speaking Japanese about me. And I don't want to leave you on a very negative story, but overall I would say Japanese people have been so polite to me, so nice to me. And the more I speak Japanese and the more I can hear things, that I can tell that they are not 100% sure about me or foreigners in general, but it's not coming out of like a hate. Sometimes it is like the pen lady, but 90% of the time I would say it's more a confusion of how should I act in front of foreigners. For some reason, I don't know what it is, maybe because Japanese people will say it's because they're an island country and have a very distinct specific culture, so every other culture is kind of different from them. But I think it's hard for Japanese people to feel that they are part of the human race. I think they still think they're one race and then everybody else is a different race, but not in like we're superior, but more like we're different, so you can't understand where we're coming from and we can't understand where you're coming from. So there's that gap. But sometimes it's just over exaggerated, and I feel a lot of Japanese people think too much. They analyze too much, like, oh my god, he's foreigner, can I say how are you? Or, oh my god, what if he speaks to me in English? Or, oh my god, like, is it okay to like talk about the weather? Like something that you would not think about at all, making conversation with somebody. For them it's like a very detailed analyzing in their head and just going over and over, and so they panic and they get confused, and I think that's what kind of scares them off. The reason I made this video, and generally speaking, I just wanted to explain how Japanese people react to foreigners, especially to those foreigners who don't speak Japanese, who don't understand Japanese. I kind of like look into the mind of the Japanese people, because some people just take it as Japanese people are looking down on you, or they're racist against you, or they hate you. But I think more than that, maybe there is some of that too. There is a small percent like that. In my 10+ years I've been here, I've received very, very little racism. So that's why I think more than anything, it's the Gaijin effect. Like I was saying, when you're in presence of them, they change their mental state for some reason. They become a little bit more aware of your presence and a little bit more aware of their lack of English or their lack of confidence. If you found this interesting, then please thumbs up and like this video. So this is a pretty long video, so thanks for watching this far. If you did get this far, please write in the comment section Gaijin Power. Yeah. Check out my Patreon for bonus videos every week, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, because my videos are awesome. OzzyAwesome. Take care and see you next time. Peace.